Welcome to this panel. My name is Pham. I head community engagement at this program called ION at Washington Technology Industry Association. This panel is about public interest technology, which is, which I talked with the panelists, we are defining it as any kind of technology that is used to create good for society as a whole. Any technology where information is used, where it's used to help create greater good. So what I'm going to do now is each of the panelists are actually, we want to get a sense of who is in this audience. And this is going to be very visible too. So in terms of, you came to this panel to learn about, to discuss public interest technology. So there are 3 levels that we would like to understand in terms of the knowledge level. So one is, are you totally new to this, you've never really read about it, or you just want to understand. The second level is you have maybe been volunteering a little bit, or you've been reading about it for a while and you want to understand more. And the third is you've been working in this space either as a volunteer or in your job for years and you're an expert. So we're going to have our panelists demo what that looks like. All right, so if you are new, then you will do this. You are drunk. You are drunk. Yes.
Yeah. So the goal is, if you're new to public interest technology, but you haven't done much, just please stand up.
Yeah. Oh, we'll do this one at a time.
One at a time.
Yeah. And then if you've been doing it for a while, or like you've been reading about it, you feel yourself moderate. And then you are a total expert. All right, let's do the new first experts. Following Renee, if you are new to this, stand up.
You're new.
Straight arms to the side. Okay, we've got to think about it. There's the audience. All right? Okay. If you are moderate.
Moderate. There we are.
Awesome. All right. And then okay, great. That sounds like we're very solidly the moderate. Wonderful. So now I have each of the panelists introduce themselves and talk about how they got into public interest technology. And also, if you could give an example of public interest technology in places outside of Seattle.
So my name is Renee Farris, and I am a corporate social responsibility manager at the Silicon Valley Community Foundation. And I am very new to this area. Of course, philanthropy is very interested in creating societal solutions that include everyone, and doing good for society in general. And so that led me to public interest tech. I worked with about 18 different companies, mostly tech companies, on their social good programs. And you asked for an example of one of the public interest tech solutions that I find really interesting. Code for America is a fantastic nonprofit, and they have a program that they recently piloted in San Francisco, and it's called Clear My Record. Has anybody heard of that? Okay, we have a few people. So Clear My Record, basically 1 in 3 Americans has some kind of criminal record or some kind of record that comes up when a background check is done on them. And that impacts their ability to apply for student loans, to get housing, to get jobs. And so what most states have done is they've created laws that allow people to, after a certain amount of time, or if the law changes, they can clear their record. However, it's a very time-consuming, expensive, complicated process, so only a small percentage of people have been able to clear the record. So what Code for America did is they went in and they basically automated the thing to take about 12 seconds. And they started with, California had legalized marijuana, and so in Prop 64. And so what they did was they decided to clear all the marijuana records, all the criminal records associated with that in San Francisco. They cleared 8,000 people. And then they just recently, a month ago, did it in Los Angeles and cleared about 54,000 people. And their goal by the end of 2019 is to clear about 250,000 individuals who now have additional opportunities for loans and housing. So yesterday, it really enhanced their lives.
Hi everybody. Hi again if you were on the previous panel. I'm Amie Thao. I am the Civic designer for the City of Seattle. I work on the innovation performance team in the mayor's office. So we try to bring data analytics and design into city government. So we're a very mini team. How I got to this work was I grew up in Seattle. I love technology. So when I was in high school, I took a computer art class at North Seattle Community College, which was my first HTML class, and they called it that back then, I guess. And then after that, I was not a good student, well, I liked to learn, but I wasn't a good student. So I went to art school and studied illustration, and then got out of art school with lots of student debt, so decided to work in tech, my hobby. Worked at some startups, went cycling, and then joined government. So for all of you wondering how you can get into a position like mine, I worked in a few different city departments, so it was kind of like slowly introducing this concept of human-centered design to government. So it's taken 4.5 years so far, but just hearing the words come out of the mayor's mouth was very gratifying. A couple examples of public interest tech. I'm always interested when government employees leave government, I think both of you maybe, to join private companies and then address some of these issues in government. So a couple examples is a startup called Aunt Bertha, which tries to bring together all the services and resources available to people. And they use an API so service providers and governments can plug into it. And it was started by a project manager that used to work at the city of Boston. The other example that just came out a couple days ago is something called Collab, and it is a partnership with Sidewalk Labs, and I forgot the other person, but Sidewalk Labs is Google's arm, but it's the director of civic innovation there. Her name is Ariel Kennan, and she used to work in a role similar to mine in New York City. So they've created a platform that allows people to kind of see how government makes processes and then, or decides on things, and then they can go in and choose what they want public spaces to look like, going through kind of a decision-making process. It's beautiful, it's visual, there's a prototype of it. Yes.
So if it's okay, Lori, I'm going to stand. That's all right. I'm more of a standard talker. And I'm also going to be loud, so if I get really loud, let me know. I also have a stammer, so if my words start running together, especially the folks in the back, and you can't understand what I'm saying, please let me know, because I won't be aware of it. So the way that I got into public interest technology was actually...
So you're...
Oh, yes, right. So I'm Bowen, Osoko. I work for the police department in Victoria. Hello, thank you, Lori. I work for the Victoria Police Department in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, like, actually like 70 kilometers that way. So I'm Canadian, and yeah, and I'm kind of, I'm just in a very weird role. How I got into it is I was homeless, actually. When I was 12 years old, I spent Christmas in a homeless shelter. And a good friend of mine knew I was really into music, and he was working with these guys, this was way back in the 80s, for BBS, and working on BBS creating music files back and forth. And I sat down with him and tried to understand how this technology worked. And on the way back, I'll never forget, on the way back on the bus in winter in Winnipeg, which is like -40, I was sketching out how we were going to design this media interface with these guys who were in East Germany. And I didn't realize at the time that we were breaking down cultural barriers and language barriers and mathematics barriers and economic barriers and access barriers all at the same time. Didn't occur to me at all. Many years later, I went to university, did a bunch of other stuff. I got hired in government to kind of do similar kind of work. I worked for the government's law firm for the province of BC. And they specifically hired me because I don't really see barriers very much. I just kind of walk through. And that's what public interest technology for me kind of is. It's any public good that then, it's any piece of technology that becomes public good, any kind of information becomes public good. I ended up doing much of really fun work in the province of BC, and then I had this opportunity to work in policing, which is kind of a roundabout story, but I do like jobs very similar to jobs that these two folks do, but just in a really practical place. Two examples of public interest technology that outside of Seattle, one in Seattle, the most effective crowdsourcing technology ever, 911. That's the best example of public interest technology I can give. Second one was when I'm going to do my own horn, because I actually did that a little bit. It was in Boston, we did it the week after. I helped launch a mobile web application for policing that respected people's privacy, doesn't tell us who the location is, allows people to submit reports as they need to, and helps us notify them when we need people's help. And actually found missing people as a result, people who were really at high risk. So yeah, that's the best example I have of those.
What's the name of the app?
So actually the company that does the app is actually based at Boston, but that app is mobile big PD, but the mobile PD API platform is one that you can all check out. And it's, yeah, we'll talk lots more about how there's a lot of public data there.
Thank you. I think it's so helpful to get examples because public interest technology can sound really broad. And so thank you for grounding us in real life examples. So could you just tell us what you are really excited about, what you think the opportunities are in terms of public interest technology, because of its growth, its development?
So I'm very excited about the opportunity to aggregate and anonymize data and the ability that that presents to society, the benefits we can gain from that. So one really quick example of it, and then I'll get into more of the social impact example. One quick example of that in practice is when you use your GPS. So when you're using Google Maps or you're using Waze and trying to get to your destination, it's using real-time data and it basically has surveillance on all of the thousands of people around you to see what the traffic flow is. And then it's able to predict to you. Now that's not taking anybody's personal data, but it's using the aggregate anonymous data to benefit you. And I think about someday, maybe we'll have some kind of database that has all of our medical information. And it would be, if it's anonymous and it's aggregated, it provides a tremendous opportunity for researchers to go in there to find cures and benefit all of humanity. I recently saw an example of this in practice, not in the medical aspect, but Facebook had worked with NASA. Last year we had the Camp Fires in California. It was the worst fire in the state. And what they did was NASA uses satellite imagery, sensory information to map things, right? But they don't. Facebook was basically able to provide all sorts of additional information because when people are evacuating during a crisis, a lot of times they log into Facebook to say that they're okay and they mark themselves as safe. And so what NASA was interested in learning was in a disaster, an emergency, how are populations moving? How are they evacuating? What are the patterns? And how long do they stay away? Where do they go? When do they return back? And it was interesting because they noticed they learned a few things. So they thought that there would be some kind of pattern to the way people left and evacuated, but there wasn't. They just scattered all over the place. And so they were like, oh, they must have a lot of friends, family, FEMA shelters. And then another thing they noticed was when people came back, there were certain regions where people did not go back to. And it indicated to them that those places were damaged and uninhabitable at that time. So that's another way where they've got aggregate data, but it's not personal and it's beneficial because it's useful for disaster response teams, globally to be able to have that kind of information.
I don't have such a detailed answer. It's the things that I'm most excited about.
The opportunities.
The opportunities. Kind of veering a little bit away from tech, one opportunity I see is there's demographic changes in the U.S. So there's a lot of young people coming up. It's more diverse. I did a lot of interviews with young people, and a lot of them have the heart to do public service, or they want to make social impact work. Probably a lot of you here. So I'm excited about that trend. And even though it feels like things like social equity, all those things are moving too slow for us, all you have to do is look at some TV shows from the 90s to see how they talk about women, how they talk about this and that, to see that we are kind of going in a good direction, even if there's a few hang-ups or hiccups. So government as a whole, we are older than the workforce population, the people who work in government. So my hope is that more young people come into government, more people like yourselves with different skill sets that can benefit government, all to kind of make a better services for people that can include technology.
I'm actually, I don't have a specific thing, but I'm actually most hopeful about the future. And it's partially because of exactly what you said. when I worked in government, I went from being the youngest person in the room to being one of the older people in the room in 5 years. And it's funny, people always ask me like, what are you gonna do in your next job? I'm like, well, I don't know. The amount of potential right now with the tools we have to talk with and listen to and get to know people that we otherwise would never would is just so tremendous. And that potential then creates the ability to solve problems. And then solving those problems identifies the new problems that we need to solve. And that's what I'm most excited about. Because I don't know about you, but it's usually not the first problem I try to solve, but it's the second problem I try to solve. Like in the last panel, we're talking about how as soon as you remove one barrier, you become aware of vulnerabilities. That's just so true. That's what I'm most excited about.
We will never have a shortage of problems to address, right? So what we're going to do now is this is going to be very interactive. So I want we're going to open this up for Q&A. We want about 3 to 4 questions that are open and broad, and then what we'll do is we're going to break into 3 groups so that each of the, let me rephrase this, so that if you really want to learn what Amie or Renee or Bowen are doing, then you can talk to them about that, and because they all have their own specialties too. So, but for now, let's have about 3, 4 questions that are broad, and then we're going to break it up, all right? And then we'll come back together as a group. So, questions? And again, sorry, I'm holding this because this is what my kids.
Can we ask that question then?
Oh, no, wait, let's just sit for a moment.
All right.
Rebecca.
Thanks, Shirley. Hi, my name is Rebecca Yang. Thank you so much for speaking with us tonight. So I previously served as a U.S. diplomat in this level, covering human rights in Sweden. Now I work at Facebook, Federal Trust and Safety Operations. One challenge that I have experienced, and I think that you'll have experienced as well, is trying to influence your own sector, like changing incentives within your own sector. It seems like it was incredibly hard to do in government. It's very hierarchical, and it's hard to get to adopt new ideas. And obviously in tech too, we have certain incentives as well. And I think what David was saying when he first kicked off this month was the paradigm itself needs to shift. How do we start to move in that direction from where we're sitting? So all of you are influencing other sectors, other organizations. What are some key tactical ways in which you found that to be successful?
Is everybody here in the back?
No.
Okay, yeah, sorry, next time I will bring the mic around. The question was, how can we influence change from where we're sitting?
How do you influence change across sectors? What are some effective tactical ways to do that?
I'm the holder of the mic.
I'll go with that. If guys have the mic, can you guys all hear me?
Please use the mic. Yeah, use the mic.
Okay. Thank you. So the first thing is you have to be brave, which is super hard, especially it's super hard. And then you have to find the people who are being brave, and you have to help them because it's hard. I was given one of the jobs I work in Canada. We have provinces instead of states. We have leaders and governors. So I had this job where they were trying to come up with a new holiday. It doesn't sound like a high stakes kind of thing, but it ends up being super political. And they're trying to pick the day for a holiday called Family Day, which everyone's got to have some kind of family. And I remember sitting around in a room full of people, and everyone's trying to avoid eye contact with the premier because no one wants the job. And I realized if no one wants the job, I want that job. And so she literally said, so who's going to do this? And I was like, I'll do it. She said, how? I said, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. And it worked, which was great. But it didn't work like super good like within the first 5 minutes, right? I had to be honest about the things that worked, and I had to be able to ask for help. And part of the help we needed to ask for was when it got really hard. Like, it's hard. How many people here work in a public sector or government style place? Man in the back. How many people here work in a technology company? How many people here work directly with someone who has key decision making at 10% of your budget or higher? So you guys, can you put this hands up again? You guys have a type of influence that I think it's important that you take moments to recognize. You're in that position because people trust you, and they trust your decision making. But don't forget, they pay you to say yes to you, and they pay you to say no to you. And it's the second one that's the hard one. Change takes time. Does that answer your question?
So I have two suggestions. One is look for other champions like within your organization. You've done a fair bit of work in diversity and inclusion, and you have people in human resources working on it. You have people in product development. You have people in university relations. Lots of people across the organization working on diversity and inclusion. So whatever your cause is, whatever it is that you're passionate about, try to connect with the other people at your organization and collaborate cross-departmentally to make that a reality. The second recommendation I have is that look what other companies are doing, because your company wants to be very competitive in that space. So for example, so you worked at Facebook, Google set up a tech ethics panel. And then you've got Facebook going, oh, maybe we need to do that, or we need to do something in that space. And so there's a lot of pressure to do what your peers are doing. So if in my current role, I've done benchmarking studies. We'll get 9 companies together and ask them all sorts of questions to basically tell them, like, here's what the industry is doing, here's how you compare to your competitors. So that is very helpful, as well as building the business case. We're like, well, if you don't include this particular feature that is like good for society, then you're opening yourself up to risk. You know, you're opening yourself up to reputational risk as a brand, to lawsuits, to additional legislation being put on you from policymakers. So the business case also helps.
I would say all of that, plus I think you need to kind of have a vision of where you want to go and what future vision do you want to get to, because the work is hard and it takes so much time. So for you to kind of keep a very strong view of your end that you want, and then find those around you that perhaps wants to work towards your vision as well and connect with them. It's probably my main one, but take care of yourself. Change is hard, and I know things like equity, stuff like that, sometimes people don't want to make a misstep, so they do nothing, or they try to research a lot until they can figure out the right thing. And I would recommend forming a little coalition, trying out little things, and kind of slowly moving towards your goal. Great.
Question in the back. I will read it. And then we'll get
Okay, my name is Stu. Can you hear me all right? In a world where data is the new oil, what are some of the incentives or levers that you see in your practices that need to be pulled or need to be developed to encourage public interest in the usage of these elements, as opposed to the monetization of the data and I work with countries, so governments or stakeholders to holding the data and restricting it and searching monetization?
There's only one mic for the 3 of us, so on my way up here, there's a woman in the front, Gretchen, who has a concept, or introduced me to the concept of data sovereignty. I don't completely understand it yet, but if you look it up, it's really interesting.
Yeah, I was trying to understand the question. So your question, correct me if I'm wrong, is basically how do you use data for good as opposed to purely monetizing it?
Sorry to expand on it. So often data can be restricted, or people will want to hold on to data. And so I'm very interested in your experience about how we can encourage, what are the levers that we can pull that will encourage people to set up the right constructs, the right legal agreements, or the right APIs that allow us to share data in the interest of public goods as opposed to privatization and taking a purely commercial approach to how we use or leverage these.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, and maybe some of the other panelists have more expertise on this topic, but I think that it just takes one person to start a movement. And so if you're willing to share your data, I mean, companies can be very protective of that, but if there's a way to make the data more flexible, to anonymize it, to aggregate it in a way that, or share just certain types of data that everyone's comfortable with, if you can bring together some kind of coalition and say like, this is our cause, and you can have cross, sector partnerships between companies, governments, nonprofits, and get a lot of people in. Once you build that kind of momentum, then it's hard for it basically makes other companies or organizations not look like a team player if they're not contributing to that. So I think just being the first person willing to step out and lead the way is helpful.
Also, I think that where I work in the city of Seattle, we are sitting on a lot of data, but we don't have a lot of employees that know maybe what to do with it. So part of it is perhaps adding capacity to public places by kind of demonstrating how this could work, and also take their interest in mind. So a big concern is privacy and racial equity, all these things, like how is the data being used? And sometimes companies, they kind of gloss over that part. So if you can address the concerns, I think, of people.
So I've worked on a series of open data projects and I've run into some of the challenges you talked about. So I'm going to give you 4 practical tools. The first one is the good thing about money is that it makes its own kind of use case. And the good thing about taking that profit approach, or it's an opportunity to pull the additional value, is convincing sometimes to people who need to be convinced of that. Because if you can make money on it in a way that's going to help minimize risk, which is the second lever, then by doing so, you've kind of already proven a business case. What's really interesting is when you open data for the first one. Hey, let's open in the province of BC. One of the things we do with an open data project is we open up locations of all local wineries. We like to drink wine in BC. It's actually pretty good wine. We should have some. I didn't bring it. I'm sorry. But we did that, and someone created an app to then basically go on these winery tours. And then someone else created a hiking app where you can stop in at these wineries and get water. But just, again, create the data in such a way that you can make money out of it, and then someone can say, well, here, here's a free tool. So, again, you can't avoid the money part entirely. Reducing risk is really, really key, and that involves privacy data. Make sure the data is private, that's really cool. The third is, it's amazing how often when you start talking to people about the value, especially within governments, the value that the data that they have kind of contains, there's a sense of civic duty there often with many public servants that I work with, and that you've spoken about this as well, where people want to open the potential. I mean, most people get to public service, work for government, generally speaking, want to do good things. And so money is okay, reducing risk is okay, engaging people with something that they care about and the reason why they can start doing the job in the first place is really good. And the last one is downstairs there is I think it's a neon sign that asks what if. That's a super powerful question around open data sets. I had this project in the police department, and you're all talking about data risk and people who don't want to open things, it's kind of opposites in my experience. And one way we opened up some of our data was asking one of the deputy chiefs, he said, well, what are people going to do with this? I said, I don't know. What are people going to do with this? And there's this moment of, what if we open this and found out? Now, if you reduce risk and engage people's civic virtues and the goodness in many people we work with, then that second point of question becomes a lot less about move fast and break things, and a lot more about, let's take a careful glance at the horizon and see if that's the place we can go. Does that help answer your question?
Great, I'm gonna open up to one more question, then we're gonna break into groups. You stood up before, and then we'll break into groups. You will have your chance to ask questions.
I guess my question is about what do we have to give up in order to make public interest technology work? I think efficiency is the one that snaps to mind when you think about government. And I guess an alternative way to think about that is what can't we give up? Can we not give up privacy when we think about building these tools? So I guess you could go either way, but whatever question interests you the most. What do we have to give up, or what can't we give up?
Let's keep it at what we have to give up, because we are going to have one breakout on ethics. So I think that's where we can really do there. But
I would say ego and kind of your strong belief that you have the right answers, because when you open up something, there's many perspectives when we're talking about the community or the people or the user. It could be police officers, it could be your neighbor, it could be you. So we're all very different, and if we're talking about having something that benefits many, many parties, you're going to have to give a little bit, take a little bit.
I was thinking the same thing. I think what we're going to have to think about is the convenience of just talking to people that are already within our circle. I mean, if we're going to create technologies that benefit everyone, we need everyone at the table. And that's going to take a lot of reaching out to people. There's a huge digital divide out there, and technology is only, I mean, currently it's only increasing that divide. And so we need to make sure that everyone's at the table.
Risk aversion. And that's, I really, I think what Dave was talking about, like talking to strangers, I think, but you have to give up going, ooh, okay. Oh, I feel uncomfortable. I let that go. We often talk in government about this thing called the clay layer. So there's the people who are kind of often at the design development stage, and there's the leaders in kind of the C-suite, and then this group of folks in between who are often in a place of being able to slow things down and keep things to a reasonable manageable pace. One of the things that the bureaucracy does is it keeps things just running kind of out of control, right? Navigating the clay layer can be really, really, really hard until you change. And risk aversion is the language of the clay layer. And being able to give that up and help those people give that up, I think that's what it's got to go.
Okay, so we heard ego, we heard efficiency, we heard risk aversion.
Yeah.
Okay, so now what I'm going to do is set it up so that you know which panelists you want to go with. The question is, what is the problem? What's that challenge that keeps you going, that keeps you interested in public interest technology?
I think one of the biggest challenges is data privacy. There's an experiment done that was like, they created a social media platform and they asked people to read the terms and conditions before signing it. And they said 25% of people read it, and 98% of people did not read the bottom paragraph, which said they would give up their firstborn child in payment for the services. So I think that the question is like, how much personal privacy are we willing to sacrifice for convenience, for making our lives easier and more efficient, and where do companies need to draw the line? Where should we as individuals draw the line? What is that balance that we need to be walking?
Sometimes I want to give up my job because government working is very difficult. So I think for me, the challenge that keeps me going is that there needs to be more creative people, more future-thinking people in these spaces, because that's, somebody said yes. Yes. So that's what I'm interested in, thinking about people who work in bureaucracy or thinking about you. You're all here because you're interested in social impact. How can we help each other? How can we leverage what government knows, what you all know? So that's what keeps me going.
What keeps me going is answering the question of how do we build trust? How do we look each other in the eye in a way that's meaningful?
So the way we're going to divide this is we're going to have 3 different conversations. Renee is going to focus on the conversation around ethics, people who are interested in the questions around ethics and public interest technology. Amie is going to focus on the question of operations, operationalizing public interest technology. And Bowen is going to focus on the question of community building and what are the community building potentials around public interest technology. So to get a sense of where we're going to direct people, and then what's going to happen is you'll go into your breakout room and we'll have about a fast 15 minutes before we come back here. and they'll survey, are there any burning questions? So getting the burning questions before answering them. And then you'll also be able to see in that group who else is also interested in this, so that after lunch is next, you can continue that conversation. And then we'll come back here and each of the facilitators is doing it with one summary line from their conversation. Does that make sense in terms of instructions? Okay, so who is interested in ethics? Raise your hand. So I can do like 5. Okay, who is interested in operationalization? Is that like 15? Yeah, lots. Okay, who's interested in community building? So do you think that was operationalization or community building was bigger? Okay, so operationalization, we'll go with Amie over there to the left, and we want to try to stay away from the stairwell so we don't disturb the that too much. And then ethics come up here, and then community building back there. All right? This is like 12 minutes. 12 minutes. 10 minutes. Ethics here.
Community building back here. Ethics over there. Opposition over there. Community building over here. Walking through here. So, how would you think this thing right here? Okay, so, let's do the picture on that side. Is that right?
Some of it has actual teeth to it. And
disrupt and see like, not just can we make it, but should we do that? And so the companies are kind of creating their own models. A lot of them are consultants, like we saw Reed in today, he's got his too. They'll go in and they're all working on models. They bring in a lot of philosophers, lawyers, they'll take a lot of time putting up the legal counsel for their companies.
Well, I was going to add, there's a semester many arts funding net operating system, which your government said on slide that the problem areas in fact part of the operating system. So that's a resource. There's another group that was pulled together all the public agency, ethics boards, I actually don't for Charles County, these are actually 12 things that are consumer health and we have lots of and published the like principle sets out there, the tech companies care about it. But I personally I found those principles to be helpful, but as a designer, I don't know how we make some intelligence because as I face some decisions has to be so principles all that stuff. Governance is place for it. Just as a part designer, I understand for that, and I'm struggling with practically get help right now.
So I want to take a moment to reflect back on something. Thank you very much for talking. Your first group, you're awesome. I mean, an engineer, a cybersecurity expert, you have someone working with the secret, there's someone working in health, there's someone talking about the national economy, there's someone working in the government and open ethics. We often think of technology as software. In politics, you say, this is technology. So what we've done here is we've actually utilized technology in three ways. The first one is we gathered a group of people. The second one is that
impactful, and I'm just like, this is important. But if you were to have some more structured ways to publicly recognize and support people who do that work and make it
so often people have a little technology, but they have interest or information, and they forget first of all,
right now, I do understand.
public part,
It's not,
which is why I was So next, we've got 3 minutes.
trying to shift that.
What are the key questions that you have? But as a master
cycle.
I really want to is there a question that you think that you might share with someone else at the table? I can think of educators might have questions. I can think of cybersecurity person.
Policies also really coming up the pipeline, the Senate just putting forward legislation to talk about online companies.
So,
Might have to go over a question.
I mean, for me, I'll answer your question.
Yeah.
I've actually wondered, like, you guys.
You can hear my voice come on.
So, we know that we are the only thing standing between you and lunch. So, what we're going to do right now is I just want each of the panelists to share a few sentences summarizing some of the key takeaways that they heard in their group. And yeah, so we've got ethics, operationalization, community building.
So most of the questions in our group centered around how to create ethical decisions in your company and kind of get support behind those and how to make them effective and widespread throughout your organization. And so many companies are focusing on speed and profit and things like that. It can be a bit difficult. So we talked about, it was raised that Omidyar has created a set of operating models to help your company create ethical, to discuss ethics and to integrate it throughout your company. We talked about celebrating when you are able to create some kind of ethical decision and having your company promote that, support that, and celebrate it. We talked about investors and how investors may start increasingly look to companies. One person works for an impact investing organization that goes under the hood at tech companies and looks to see what their AI and like algorithms are doing and whether there's any bias in those. So yeah, just a lot of great ideas on how to integrate ethics throughout your company.
Now I realize why you handed me that notepad, which I cannot fill out. So I think my group kind of talked about how people can come together to make more social impact and how things kind of work day to day for me and other places. I'm sorry, I'm hungry too. And talk to me later.
I ate a protein bar before this because I was getting
There you go.
What we actually did in our group is we built a little community really quickly. We talked about the different things that we wanted to do. And what actually was super heartening and just totally to highlight this conference for me is we're trying to get you guys' attention and you guys are talking about the problem you're trying to solve and you're totally ignoring us. And that was awesome. So that's what we did. We basically used a really quick process of just really quickly building some community, introducing people to talk to each other. But the key question that we wanted to ask, which I think that we really summed up well, is how do we create the trust that we need to build the communities? And what we did in our group is we just told people a little bit about who we are and why we care. And it was really interesting to watch how things flowed from there. So thank you, great record. You guys are awesome.
Ditto.
Is there, before we thank the panel, because we're about to go to lunch, are there any people who have a burning question that they want to find someone to talk about that during lunch? You can stand up and say, I want to talk about this, and then other people will be like, oh, I want to talk to you too. Is there anything like that? Yes?
So I think we talked a lot about how technology companies can help digital literacy and public interest.
Yeah. If you have that request, just come up here. And we're not answering your question, we're
Hi.
posing the question.
Yeah. So we talk a lot about how technology companies can help public interest and are getting involved in public work, and public services. The greatest group of people we have that are focused on open, accessible, private information for all is public libraries. Like they already exist.
So what's your question?
My question is instead of focusing on how technologists can help close the gap on digital literacy, how can we help public libraries and the people who are in there close that?
Okay, what's your name?
Amanda.
Amanda, go talk to Amanda if you want to talk about that. Any other questions that people want to find partners to talk about? All right.
I know you got a question, man.
Yeah.
Yours is a good one. Oops, yours is good.
Here.
Who's good?
Say your name.
What's my question?
So the question that he's working in e-health, and he's talking about how do you, oh, right. So the question that he specifically asked Dr. was how do you, instead of, if someone's in the community, and if I get this wrong, let me know. But,
Wait, are you ready to ask it?
are you ready to ask it?
I think I can spin this one. So I actually work for a telco / health company up in Canada, and we do a lot of our employees do give a lot of time back. I think we gave 1 million hours last year. And so volunteerism, et cetera, is all part of what we do. But the question I had was, how do we create trust around communities or ability so that we can understand which ones we really want to join? I think was what.
Okay, what was your name?
Mike.
Mike, okay, great. So Mike and Amanda, any other questions? Any other people looking for discussion buddies? Rebecca, you look like you weren't. Question?
Okay, can I do this as a statement?
No.
All right. Okay.
How might we go ahead?
Okay. I noticed here in Seattle, I moved here 9 months ago, I noticed here in Seattle we have very Seattle-centric conversations, especially at tech conferences. We think that the reality we live in here using kind of apps for everything in our daily lives is normal. It's not normal for the world. So how do we expand the conversation to include global communities, especially the most vulnerable populations around the world? So please talk to me. Find me if you'd like to talk about that.
Great. All right. With that, we're going to bring our panelists here. All right. Wonderful. Enjoy. Dave, do you have any comments on lunch? Is there any
Lunch is downstairs.
Okay, great.